Welcome to Bioenergetics, a Doc of Detox show. I'm Abby Michelle here with my amazing and brilliant co-host, Dr. Deborah Drake. How are you doing today? It's so good to see you again.
Great to see you, Abby. I'm just a bit jet lagged from coming home from teaching in Vegas, but thrilled to see you again.
Oh,
I love
good.
our meetings and a chance to just talk with you direct. It's great.
Oh, me too. It's one of my favorite parts of my week. So it's so good to be back because it's been a while. We had a little hiatus there for a bit. So happy to have you back on the show. And before we get started today, I have some announcements for all you beautiful viewers out there. It's Black Friday week, so now is the time to stock up on your favorite products or try some new products you've been wanting to try. We have buy one, get one 50% off, and that's going until midnight Monday, the 26th. So you have some time to figure out what you want to do for that. And if you have questions, you can always give us a call. If you don't know which products are best for you, we're here to always help you out. So don't hesitate to give us a call. We are going to be in Adelaide, Australia, February 1st to the 12th for our Wolf Deep Tissue and Wolf Non-Surgical certifications. And then we'll be in Kelowna, BC from February 17th till March 7th for the combined certification. So that will be all three of our courses. And then we're going to be back in St. Petersburg, Florida from June 9th to the 28th. And that is for our combined certification. And like I said, that's for all three, but we're going to be doing another whole life coach at the end of that one. So that will be our whole life coach certification, Wolf Deep Tissue, our non-surgical certification, and then again we'll be doing another whole life coach certification after that. And with all of our certification courses, you do get Braveheart for free. And for all practitioners who take our courses, we have created Business Builder. So we provide you with a fully functional website designed to target the natural health industry at a fraction of the cost. Our leading edge platforms are complete with integrative e-commerce, high-end design elements, and ongoing support from an experienced team of web developers. So let's take care of your business so you can focus on what you're passionate about. Together, let's fast forward your practice and remove any obstacles and hurdles that may block your success. Sometimes that's the biggest hardest part for people is actually getting out there and getting online and figuring all that out. So we take care of all of that for you. And that's all my announcements for right now. So let's get to it. Today's episode is called All Gassed Up and Ready to Blow. And our phone lines are open for all your questions. So you can call us at 1-888-570-9445. Take her away, Dr. Drake.
Wow, well, that's great. I'm so impressed that you're using, the wonderful new world of social media and international travel combined with webcasting to give people not only professional certification but business training. Because, let's face it, in the world of natural medicine, we aren't taught really much about how to run a business and how the world is changing in terms of its paradigm of what people do need. You
Totally.
know, there's
It's,
a lot of miscommunication, misinformation, a lot of people selling a lot of things hodgepodge and nilly willy. And quite frankly, the consumers are lapping it up, but they
yeah,
may not be getting the results that they're expecting.
yeah.
So today I'd like to talk about, you know, how do we get the results that we're looking for?
Oh, one second here. I'm just getting some feedback. There we go. But no, I agree 100%. If you go on Instagram or Facebook or any of these different social media platforms, you're seeing products just being sold left, right, and center. And some of these people they're just in it to make money. They're like, oh, hey, there's a hot item, we're gonna just make a product and sell it. And that might not even be a high quality product. That might not be what they're even saying it is. So people, be very cautious what you're looking at on Instagram, on Facebook, and do your research, because there's a lot of companies out there that are not even in the health industry who are able to sell products. So we really want to create a foundation for neural practitioners to join our team, join our platform, and we're trying to make it as streamlined and easy for everybody as possible, because we've done the research. We know which products are the best. We know which therapies are the best. We know which energy medicine devices are the best out there. So we kind of just like got rid of all those obstacles for everybody. So it's a beautiful thing when we can all just come together and utilize the business builder and the courses that we've put out, and that I know you do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been taking a social media course on how to build a business through social media, even though I'm a medical physician and a natural physician. And last week I got my PhD in bioenergetics. I'm happy to report.
Oh,
Um,
congrats.
and so I'm feeling that I'd rather, focus on teaching the public what they need to do to become knowledgeable consumers so that they can't be bamboozled by false claims or protect. Maybe it's not the false product, but it might be the false promise.
Right.
And the promise of getting weight loss off has been sold to the North American public because suddenly we're gigantically, running against Mexico for the number one and two spots of obesity in the world.
Right.
So North America just got overtaken by Mexico as the most obese population
Oh,
per capita, I
really?
guess. So let's
Interesting.
talk about that today in a much different way than I think most people do.
Mm-hmm.
I have the luxury of having a degree in almost every kind of medicine, Eastern, Western, Northern, and Southern. And the truth is that it all comes back down to your biochemistry.
Mm-hmm.
If your biochemistry is correct, your body is designed to clean poisons, which are positive charged elements that are stuck in tissues like heavy metals, or negatively charged poisons stuck in your body's cellulite and other organs like your fatty tissues or brain. And the body basically just buffers fat around anything that it doesn't like.
Right.
So if you're full of bad chalks, bad vitamins, bad leftover pellets with adulterants, incipients, and additives to your both nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals,
Mm-hmm.
your body could be getting obese just on the fillers for which those pellets were made.
Yeah.
And a
And
lot of times people don't understand the idea that obesity has gotten such a stigma
yeah.
that people can almost be shamed into buying anything, trying anything. Hey, reduce your calories. Well, it's going to put you into metabolic starvation mode, which is even more acidic, and it's not going to last. As soon as you
Right.
start eating normally, you'll gain the weight back.
Mm-hmm.
What if you put in yourself a diet where you're going to cut the fat out or burn it out or freeze it off or do
Mm-hmm.
something else? Well, the reason that your body made fat around you is for a protective reason.
Exactly. That's
So
what I
just
was just gonna
cutting
say.
off your protections, like grabbing your crutches away from a man with broken legs,
Yeah.
saying you better start walking, buddy.
Yeah.
So
And nobody's going to do that. That's just crazy. But there are people who are literally just going and getting the fat sucked out of them, or their fat cool sculpted and frozen like you said, or just trying to find that easy way to just burn it and then go back to their regular lifestyle that caused the exact problem that they were dealing with. Um,
So, yeah, but most people don't understand that the difference between fat and edema and swelling by gas has all been lumped into one gigantic category,
right. Let's
which we now
differentiate
call
that.
obesity. It's a global epidemic. So something globally is happening
Mhm.
that's making people obese around the world. Now, I want you to think about your trusted tape measure.
Mhm.
Okay, my little prop here for the entire night is a simple little tape measure because if you measure things, you get better accuracy. So
Definitely.
if you can measure your body, say for instance, it's been proven that a 34-inch waist or 88 centimeters, like 88 keys on the piano, remember that number,
Mhm.
88 centimeters or 34 inches has been shown to be the waist circumference upon which below 34 inches is a non-diabetic usual figure.
Right.
Above 34 inches increasingly increases your ability to get diabetes for every amount of extra bloating or poundage or gaseousness you put on.
Mhm.
You're going to have a higher risk of diabetes, which diabetes, if those of you who don't know, that means your body has uh, not enough ability to deliver blood sugar into the cell. Now,
Right.
that could be some rare people, 10% of the people have diabetes type 1, where they actually are missing diabetes from birth, often in a diabetic mother who's had yeast infections, and all the acetone from her yeast burnt out the baby's
Okay.
pancreatic cells.
Oh, interesting. That's good to know. So, for anybody who's looking at getting pregnant to bring a beautiful baby into this world, doing some major detoxification is important so that that doesn't ever come into play.
Exactly. And remember this that yeast infections grow on progesterone, but when
Mm-hmm.
you're pregnant, you make beta HCG, which is like a double whammy super potent progesterone
Right.
in the pregnancy. So it's double yeast promoting. And yeast produces nail polish remover called acetone.
Right.
That nail polish remover burns the islet cells of Langerhans that make insulin in your pancreas. So now the pancreas is like inflamed and either over or underproducing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's overproducing by through inflammation and overproducing insulin, you could get hypoglycemic,
Right.
and then you're hungry all the time, so it creates this eating addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're hypoglycemic, you might actually be so anxious and nervous that your body starts having histamine reactions and swelling and other things going on that lead you to be vulnerable to other infections that could lead to more edema, more bloating. And the more infections that you get in your gut, guess what they do? They steal all your vitamins, your minerals, the same very minerals that run your thyroid for weight control.
Right.
That's zinc, tin, copper, iron, manganese, iodine, iron, the same oxygen carrying elements that burn for fat, burn oxygen and hold it and carry it. The parasites are going to steal one third of those minerals too from you. So just
Wow.
having a whole culture dumping minerals and vitamins into our bodies
Yeah.
without previously cleaning out the other parasites, pathogens, yeast infections, and overgrowth that has come from, antibiotic abuse, steroid abuse, dietary abuse, alcohol
Hmm.
abuse, coffee abuse, whatever it is that you're changing your body's pH with,
Yeah.
you basically are creating a petri dish that would absorb the wrong kind of bugs that'll steal the wrong kind of minerals from you, leaving your enzyme systems depleted.
Wow. So
So
amazing. It's so awesome hearing this from somebody so well educated and who's able to explain it in such a matter of fact way. Like, so you don't hear this from just anybody. You don't understand. The doctors, medical doctors, are never explaining it this way. I even know when I just had a hormonal imbalance, they're like, "Oh, it's just normal. That's just how it goes sometimes." Like they don't
yeah,
actually have an answer of, "Oh, hey, actually, it could just be this element that you need to do a cleanse on, tune that out of your body, and then it's going to function properly."
exactly. And I'd like to, I know that it's sort of a little bit tough for people who don't have chemistry background, but I had a picture up on your producer's
Yeah,
thing, and I'm wondering if you might be able to show the picture of the battery.
the battery one. Yeah, let's put that one up.
You think about your body as an aquarium, you have to have at least a half a tank of salty water to keep the saltfish alive.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a coral reef in there to give the minerals some kind of reservoir called your skeleton that brings in calcium and magnesium and potassium and sodium and some of the other trace minerals that run your body. There's only 9 minerals that really run your body, but 61 trace minerals that run your
Right.
body. So if you have oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, some of the big basic elements,
Yeah.
that covers 95% of your body.
Right.
Then there's this other 1% of your body called minerals that if you don't have, you can't turn on the pass card at the station in the factory of your body that has the pass key to turn on each assembly line station, called
Right.
an enzyme to turn on each station is catalyzed by a mineral. So those who have no minerals can't turn on their enzymes. Those who have no enzymes can't clean. Those who can't clean build up toxins as a backlog. And those who build up toxins as a backlog buffer that with fat or edema called lymphatic edema, which causes the waistline to start swelling.
Right. So we have that picture up here. So it's showing the healthy neutral blood, with acidic gut versus the ill alkaline gut acidic body. So
So let me explain that just for a minute.
yeah.
Think of yourself as a donut with a hole in the middle.
Okay.
The hole in the middle is really your mouth to your anus as the outside world passing through you, called your yang organs, your hollow exit organs.
Right.
So you have to have some input. You process and metabolize and assimilate and digest that food. You bring in those molecules, and whatever's left over, they'll go out as waste. So
Right.
in Chinese medicine, the yin organs absorb the food, and the yang organs let go of the waste.
Okay.
So the number one real important element of all weight loss is to make sure that that hollow center channel is open so that there's an open exit.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to have a backlog at the border station and
No.
there's a lineup to get out.
And most people are backed up to some degree in today's
Right.
society with all the toxins and poisons and plastics that are being ingested.
No kidding. And, we don't necessarily have a bowel movement evacuating at the right time of day, which is 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
People are trying to have a bowel movement at the wrong time of day when the colon doesn't even work.
Right. So
Right?
what is the right functioning time for the colon? Is
So
that with the circadian rhythm?
yeah, when you look at the TCM clock, if you want to just Google that, you'll see that there's a clock where each organ in the body
Yeah.
works for 2 hours and then it's dormant for the next 22 hours. So if you don't hit the window for those particular pockets of when the enzyme relay is happening, you're trying to pass the baton on to the runner that's already passed the building.
Right. So even is that important for people out there who are doing enemas, coffee enemas, even colonics of these different sorts? Should they be doing them throughout that window? Is that the best time to be doing those?
Well, let's put it this way, the body works at a circadian rhythm, but once it's backed up, you start doing weird things at weird times and it
Right.
tends to confound the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, you have to have all of your protein eaten into the body to bring in the good foods before 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, at 7 to 9 a.m. is your stomach. Then at s- uh, 9 to 11, your spleen is cleaning the food that just came in.
Okay.
Then, once the blood has absorbed the food that just came in, the heart has the best time of day to exercise. The heart is at 11 a.m. when it comes online
Mm-hmm.
and says, I'm going to use all that nutrition and protein that I've just absorbed to pump it around the body.
Mm-hmm.
As the protein starts being pumped around the body, the circulation improves to the gut.
Right.
Now, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a maximum absorption of all the proteins you ate before breakfast and lunch. They come into the jejunum, the part of the bowel that's only 12 inches long.
Yeah.
Only 12 inches. I mean, that's only this long in the entire body, just to the left of your navel. And it is the flushing big long J loop or jejunal loop that allows the food that you just ate to flush down to the lower belly.
Right.
And during that 112 inches, you suck up all the protein out of the gut. Now, the only reason you can do that, though, is one particular fact. Protein is a neutral molecule that passes through a neutral membrane best at neutral times and neutral temperatures. And so, if you don't have the right pH in your gut, any pH other than 7.0 in the jejunum, you cannot absorb protein.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
if you had a big alkaline gut growing yeast at pH 8.5 in the gut, how would you grow any protein? The yeast would be stealing all that protein out of you, eating it before you could absorb it. And then you wouldn't have any absorption, so you'd be malabsorbing protein, so you're starving, so you'd want to re eat. So
Right.
all of these parasites that cause a super hunger in you are
Mm-hmm.
probably because the pH of that one part of your bowel was incorrect.
Right. And that's
Mhm.
one big thing. People are thinking that, oh, I wish I just didn't. They think about their craving so much, you know. They're like, oh, I wish I didn't crave that. I wish I could just get rid of that craving or that addiction or whatever it might be. And
Well,
people
a
need to
simple
look at a
solution to
deeper
that is to change the
level.
pH of your gut with a
Yeah.
probiotic so that after the meal, you're putting down a pH of sourness to
Mm-hmm.
keep the bowel sour from fermenting all the gases that will make you blow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that if you have yeast growing in your bowel, it ferments 6 beers a day. It takes in the nitrogen from your food. It creates gout crystals in your joints. It creates kidney stones. It creates fermentation of your brain fog. It makes you have poor insulin dependent function, and it has a huge affinity for your hormones because it loves to grow its own colony. So
Yeah.
the yeast is going to predominate in your colon, in your gut, in your prostate, in the vagina, in the uterus,
Mm-hmm.
all the pelvic organs, which make good hormones to keep muscle building, which is testosterone and progesterone.
Mm-hmm.
They're sucked up by the yeast. So
Yeah.
if you don't eat probiotics after the meal and you don't have vitamin D to absorb better minerals to keep the pH, let me say that again. If you don't have vitamin D and K,
Mm-hmm.
vitamin D to absorb minerals,
Yep.
and vitamin K from probiotics to keep you sour and thin the blood,
Yep.
your pH of your gut will start creeping up into that second diagram there, where you'll notice that the battery has inverted its polarity.
Right.
So remember, we started saying you're a donut with a hole
Yep.
inside? Well, the center part of that hole should be a negative sour charge to allow the negative poisons to go out.
Mm-hmm.
But what
Well,
if the yeast changes that to pH 8
yeah.
instead of 6? Then now the poisons have to run into the negative pole, which is the body. So the poisons start being absorbed into you. So now I've got to have cellulite,
Right.
fat cells to buffer all of these poisons and negative charges.
Yeah.
And many people don't even understand what cellulite
I was
is.
gonna say we need to talk about this because me and my roommate were just talking about it yesterday, and I'm like, cellulite. Like, why do women like men don't have cellulite? Why is it just women? And we were just talking about this before the show started. So let's explain that.
Okay, well, listen, for a woman, obesity is maybe a bit of a better struggle than men. Although I find recently that men have a lot of parasites too.
Mm-hmm.
They've started having antibiotics and steroids and eating sugary foods, and men are having just as much obesity from tapeworm as women are from candida.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in fact, men have a lot more parasites of the worm kind because they have
Yeah.
their hands in soil more than women.
Yeah.
Although women who have their hands in diapers have a lot of parasites too.
Right.
Women caregivers and diaper changers and mothers might be having pinworm colitis, causing constipation, and a huge constipating infection will make you absorb more fats because there's more food around.
Right.
and the body doesn't know what to do with all this toxin, so it creates a thing called cellulite.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that is if you can imagine that a man's fat cells are square, but a woman's fat cells are hexagonal. Why does a woman have a bigger fat storage capacity? Because her fat cells tend to be able to expand during pregnancy or not.
Right.
She has to be able to put on one third of extra fat to be able to handle the parasite called a baby in her womb if she's pregnant, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to deliver those fatty acids to grow a 10-pound brain, electrical and nervous system, the skin and flesh of a baby. So a woman has to be able to expand and contract her fat as a physiological necessity.
Right. So,
And she tends to use estrogen to do so.
okay.
Estrogen stores more fat.
Right.
So estrogen, if it's estrogen, there's three kinds of estrogen. Estrogen 1 from the adrenals.
Okay.
That's called estrone, the cancer causing, obesity forming, stress kind of estrogen that we don't necessarily like too much
Right.
of.
Right.
About 30% of your body is about that.
Okay.
And then in the ovaries, there's estrogen number 2, which
Okay.
makes sex hormones and helps your sex drive and fertility.
Okay.
And then that's 60% of your estrogen. And then there's another 10% called estrogen number 3, estriol,
Okay.
which is responsible for artery health.
Okay. And
Now, when
so,
women go into menopause, they may lose the estrogen 2 and 3, so their body flips back over to estrogen 1, the muffin top causing fat that occurs below the belly button in men and women.
yeah. And even I know like birth control, anybody going on birth control, you're going to have a fluctuation of weight for the majority of people anyway. And does that target specific estrogens or does that target all of them?
Now, it's just targeting the sexual
Okay.
estrogens.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that one, but
But if you think about it, some people are pregnant just as if they were pregnant with a parasite, where they're
mm-hmm.
still having dominant tapeworm saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, I need some extra nutrition. Give me the fuel. Give me the same materials that make their thyroid are the same materials that make your thyroid."
Right.
So a lot of people are missing the fact that pork tapeworm is a very, or beef tapeworm is a huge epidemic that no one is talking about.
Right.
People who are athletes who are having their hands in sand all the time. We
Right.
know that for people in the Middle East, they wear a facial, um, screen with
Yeah.
high woven silk to keep the amoebas and the worms from flying off the sand dunes, causing their illnesses there.
Oh, interesting.
Well,
I didn't know that
internationally,
they did that.
I thought that was just women having to cover up their face. No,
That's what I
my
thought.
friends who are doctors for the sheiks, they basically tell me that they wouldn't want to go out into the desert without a sand
That makes
cover,
sense.
because they're coming back with amoeba and having weight changes from all these parasites that they could be
Right.
picking up from the sand.
Interesting. It looks like
Mhm.
we have a caller. So let's take our first caller and then we'll get back into it. You can ask your question when you're ready.
Hi, Dr. Abby, and hi, Dr. Forgot, Dr.
Dr.
Drake.
Deborah Drake.
It's it's handsome guy, Dr. Drake.
Hi, handsome guy.
Hi. Hey, I wanted to ask you. This is I really like this topic. Can you please share which minerals besides zinc do we need to help turn around the estrogen dominance and the cellulite? And I
Sure.
mean, could you
Well,
just give
the
could you just
adrenals
give
are
the
made of.
protocol for the?
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Would you mind just touching on which minerals that we need and which and how to restore the gut?
Yeah. It's a big topic. It's something I've spent 20 years on, so it's not an easy shakedown, but quite frankly, it's getting simpler the more I understand the chemistry. Um, First of all, if your adrenals are in overdrive, you're going to overproduce the opposite sex hormone, because your genitals produce the sex hormone of which you're the sex, and your adrenals produce the opposite sex hormone. So the ovaries would produce 90% estrogen and the 10% testosterone. In a man, the testicles produce 90% testosterone and the adrenals produce 10% estrogen. Now, what happens if you're a person with a leaky gut or an inflammation somewhere? Your adrenals are going to be in overdrive, so you're overproducing the estrogen if you're a guy. And if you're a woman, you're overproducing testosterone. So the men get more obese during stress and more docile because of the estrogen. The women get more aggressive because of the testosterone overload, and they get less able to have their proper menstrual cycles and fat hormone cycling. So one of the things that I wanted to mention to you is that if you think about a three-prong plug, The entire body is made of an extension cord of multiple three-prong plugs that you plug in called chakras, energy centers where the hormones plug in.
Mm-hmm.
And each three-prong plug has a zinc and a copper plate
Yeah.
to ground you, plus an extra prong for the type of hormone you're talking to. So estrogen plug, testosterone plug, spleen plug, heart plug, thyroid plug are all different plugs, but they all based on zinc and copper. So nobody can lose weight without a zinc and copper plug because now they can't plug in any of their hormones to do the normal hormone balancing and normal kind of thermostat control of the body. So zinc and copper would be the top two minerals for losing weight to make sure they're in balance, and they're held on a lithium teeter totter. So let's talk about zinc is in four foods: turkey, mozzarella, cashews, oysters, and I like moringa oleifera.
Stick with the cashews and the moringa, everybody.
Sure, right? That's what they fed everybody up with nuts and turkey and pumpkin pie. I forgot is the other source of zinc. So when
Pumpkin,
we're talking
yum.
about Thanksgiving weekend this weekend, that's what everybody's doing is restoring a whole year's worth of zinc in a
Yeah.
whole weekend of binge eating.
That's funny, but
And the copper is in the copper colored yams, the squash, the
mm-hmm.
sweet potatoes, the carrots, the turnips, and all of that. So you're getting the zinc and copper, and you feel electrically, uh, you know, stronger through the winter months by doing so. The lithium is in beets and in lemons. So if you're going to be juicing, throw in some pure lemon or
Mm-hmm.
beets each time to give the lithium because lithium regulates the thyroid thermostat and your mood control.
Yeah. Whenever I do juicing, I always juice a lemon with it, whatever it is. And it makes
Yeah,
it taste so good.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is that the electrolytes in your tank have to be good with sodium and potassium. So you might want to throw in the celery for that high potassium,
Yes, celery
or
juice.
having cell potassium in apricots or in raisins or bananas and especially avocados.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are the kinds of things that allow your body to open up the electrical gates for acid base control, since potassium switches with hydrogen during acidic control. When the body has an acid, it doesn't know what to do with all that acid. It's going to burn my brain. So let's suck the acid into the tissue and we'll dump out our potassium in exchange for an, an ion, a 1 plus ion. So as the acids rise, the potassium is being displaced, making me fatigue, fatigue, fatigue. Now I can't get up and run around. Now I can't get active. Now I can't burn off my fats through energy. So another thing I'd like to mention is that the electrolytes for burning fat really
Mm-hmm.
depend a lot on vitamin D absorbing the whole plethora of minerals.
Yeah.
Recently been discovered that vitamin D isn't just for absorbing minerals. It turns out that it restores the myelin sheath on all your nervous system. It
Mm-hmm.
produces a huge boost to the monocytes which fight yeast, since it activates the monocytes to absorb minerals like bullets into the tank so it can go kill any negative parasites. One
Amazing.
more thing is that if you don't sleep well, the zinc uses the stem cells in your body clean out poisons at 4 a.m., where the lungs and the colon are just breathing heavily and deeply to get the gases out of you. So when we talk about all gassed up and ready to blow,
Mm-hmm.
some people don't have enough zinc to release their gases. Now, if you think about bicarbonate from the pancreas, that's supposed to neutralize your stomach acid. It only breaks in half to carbon dioxide, that's gas blowing off, and water with zinc present. So,
Right.
what if you have parasites stealing all your zinc? You can't break your bicarb in half, so you're too alkaline, so you grow more yeast, so you hold more gas. We call that a beer distillery.
Yeah.
You're making 6 beers a day and you can't blow it off. So when you start using the Amquel, for instance, we put in all kinds of zinc and vitamin D and these trace minerals into the primer, and people have literally sat in my office, and when I give them all the zinc, they suddenly shrink 5 inches off their belly.
Wow.
Like, did they really lose 5 pounds?
It's just
No, they lost 5 inches of gas
gas.
because
Yeah.
I changed the pH of their bowel from
Yeah.
that alkaline gut back to the acid gut. They blew off their gases and burped it or farted it out.
Right.
And by
And
passing that wind, their whole tank decompresses.
yeah, and honestly, you see it so much. You see people just very gassy. Like you can tell it's just a big air bubble in there. I even know for myself when I went through my issues with my health when I was 2021, that's all it was for me was bloating and gas and water retention. And it was once I changed my diet, did some cleansing, and yeah, I quit drinking. I went away. Like people were like, "Did you lose like 60 pounds?" And I'm like, No, I literally just changed my lifestyle within 2 weeks. It looked like I lost 60 pounds. It was crazy. Um,
That's right.
yeah, so it can be
So let's
such an easy solution when it comes to certain aspects of it, especially when it is more of gas, bloating, and the swelling and edema.
exactly. Now we've talked about what minerals will help you lose weight the most, and I really do think that if I could by chance put up that other diagram that you have, there's just a picture of,
Yeah.
your tank. If you basically have a nice sour body on the inside
Mm-hmm.
and your blood is neutral, all the enzyme systems work at 37 degrees temperature and at the right pH. So if we have the right pH in the gut through probiotics, the vitamin D, and the minerals,
Mm-hmm.
that'll help you. But if you then have another look at the other equation, is there enough water to flush you? So are you taking 8 glasses of water a day, two as soon as you wake up to remove last night's acids, and another 2 cups of water before 11 o'clock where your heart needs the extra water pressure, and another 2 cups at 3 to 5, 7 p.m., somewhere in that range to get your kidneys a flush, then you're flushing as you're going through the day.
Right.
Okay. I'm just about to lose my battery. Sorry, give me a second.
Of course. Um, oh, we put up the picture of the other diagram? I didn't.
Have it up now.
Okay, perfect. For everybody out there, you can check out the diagram that Dr. Drake was mentioning. Um, should be up in
It
a second
basically
here.
just shows you that if you had a square,
Yeah.
one side of it being a healthy battery, nice and sour in the gut, then if you can keep your maintaining probiotics,
Yep.
oxygen content, and then one last component, it's called the ORP, oxidation reduction potential, then you're going to need antioxidants in the lifetime to make good health. Why is that? Because a poison is something like has 3 electrons on it. Sorry, 2 electrons, and it steals 1 electron from you.
Right.
So we have to put in vitamin C to donate an extra electron to the bad guys so that they'll neutralize themselves and go away. When you put in vitamin A, C, and E,
Mm-hmm.
they donate an electron to the poison and neutralize it so it may leave.
Right.
If you don't have enough antioxidants, your poisons remain in a charged and grabby state. They grab onto you and lock on as a free radical damage, and they're going to lock onto a bone and steal a calcium or a, they're going to log onto your DNA and steal an electron from there and cause DNA damage, or they're going to log onto your proteins and grab a little electron off your protein and causing a degradation of your enzymes or your systems.
Right.
So the bottom line is that these 3 elements of water to fill the tank, minerals to conduct electricity in the
Mm-hmm.
tank and keep the cleaning enzymes rolling and the temperature control, and then antioxidants to absorb the free radical damage. These are the 3 things that detoxify the body better than dieting, better
Totally.
than stripping off weight in any other way, because
Mm-hmm.
it corrects the metabolism.
Yes. And some really good things for that I know we work with a lot is the humic and the fulvic acid products. If you're able to take those products, you're going to be restoring your gut flora because the tummy love works to create your own good bacteria from your DNA. It's not a foreign bacteria that you're putting in, it's actually going to populate from what you were born with, which is amazing. That's such a big revolution.
Topic. Honestly, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I stopped taking all my probiotics because I was always big into probiotics because I was on so many antibiotics growing up. So it's something I've always had to bring back to balance. And I stopped taking all my probiotics, wanted to just test this out to see how good it works. And my body feels way better than it ever has before. So the tummy love is incredible. Really good to help with constipation as well. If anybody's having difficulties with bowel movements, it's really amazing, especially when paired with our daily cleansing tea. And then for electrolytes, we have like the fulvic acid, which is so rich in electrolytes. If anybody's wanting to check those out, I just wanted to mention that, especially because we have our Black Friday sale, so you can save some money if you're wanting to check those out.
It's worthy to just try it out on a sale, because once you get hooked on that, you'll realize that it's really worth not spending a lot of other monies on other vitamins and supplements
Honestly,
that, quite frankly, are poorly absorbed because they have to put what's a natural vitamin into an unnatural organic, like an organic vitamin
yeah,
has to be put into a non-organic state by putting chalks, fillers, incipients, and adulterants in it, because people don't want to take pellets or
yeah,
anything other than pellets. They tend to dislike powders and different things. So
totally.
our culture has become pellet crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And those pellets, I mean, literally, I have friends who say that they clean out, you know, toilets, the toilets that they have at parks, and they say
Yeah.
they're full of vitamins undigested in the bottom. Well,
Wow.
you're popping in these vitamins, but they're not getting into you.
Interesting. That's
But if you're
crazy.
using the fulvic and the humic
They're liquid.
acids, they're basically in a form that's more absorbable, a
100%.
bioavailable form, if you will.
Yes.
And so if you're spending, $100 on something that's only 10% absorbed, I ask you, who's getting the other 90% of that vitamin? It's all that
Exactly.
bad abnormal biome and bad flora in your gut that's being fed all these precious vitamins,
Yeah.
and they can absorb organic minerals just as you can to a degree.
Exactly. Yeah. And the
So
beautiful thing
we
about
have the best fed bugs in all the world here in North America.
yeah. The beautiful thing with the humic and the fulvic as well is that the humic is providing all your nutrients, 70 plus bioavailable nutrients. It's balancing your hormones. It's helping to kick any viruses out of your system, plus protecting you from viruses, helping to protect you from parasites, worms, bad bacteria. And then the fulvic is even detoxing out the heavy metals. It's helping to open up your receptor sites so you can absorb your nutrients better. Plus, it's going to deliver everything in. It's going to hydrate your cells. It's absolutely beautiful, those products. Like, I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I
They've
think you're right
changed
on.
my life, and they're liquid, so they're so easy. You just put them in your drink and you're good to go. I was getting so sick of taking pills all the time. It was driving me crazy, and that's the thing. Like, we get obsessed with the pellets, like you were saying, but I was sick of it at the end of it, and I'm so grateful that we have these products now because it came at the perfect time for me.
I'd like to touch a little further on that and say to you that, you know, it's one thing to take one pill with one vitamin in it and
Yeah,
10 pills with 10 vitamins in it. But how do you know, first of all, not only how well they're being absorbed, but what about the ratio that Mother Nature has? Okay.
yeah.
The ratio of potassium to sodium, the ratio of carbon to boron, the
Right.
ratio of zinc to copper, the ratio of molybdenum to manganese.
Mm-hmm.
Is in the Moringa oleifera, there's
Yes.
90 vitamins that are all in Mother Nature's recipe. So
Mm-hmm.
we use that recipe of Mother Nature's plethora to build the amp coil so that we would be using a mimicking of the vitamins that are in the
Oh, that's
body in its left
beautiful.
spinning normal state, just like in the fulvic acid.
That's so
And the
beautiful.
M-Coil is a virtual reality biofeedback device that allows you to pump back in the missing vitamins that might have been missing for decades.
Yeah.
But by putting it through a speaker amplifier transducer, you can actually replace back the missing previous corrupted files and overwrite them with newer, better working hormones, better proteins, better structures, so that your body gets a chance to catch up quickly.
It's so incredible. So amazing how you were able to do that and figure it out to put it into such a simple and easy to use way as well. Like, it's just mind blowing every time. Every time I use it and every time I listen to you talk about it, it just is amazing. And I love that you use the perfect balance from Mother Nature to put those minerals and nutrients and everything in. That's
The
so
body drinks
important.
where it needs it or what it needs. So if even
Yeah.
if I presented you with vitamin C and you already had enough in your body,
Yeah.
that seat on the bus is full, so the vitamin C frequency will just roll over you, but it won't overdose you.
Right.
Whereas you could overdose yourself with vitamins because you don't know how much you've absorbed, and so that's where we're getting into this toxic state, where we're feeding some of the negative pathogens. We're feeding the negative, well, shall we say, the positive charges of alkalinity in the gut.
Right.
And maybe we should touch on the fact that a lot of people are mixing up the idea that they should drink alkaline water
Yeah.
with having an alkaline body versus an alkaline gut.
Yeah.
There's two chambers in the body. Let's recap. The center chamber is your gut, the hollow tube passing through. The pH there should be 6.5 to 7.
Mhm.
Blood is 7.4.
Yeah.
Come heck or high water, it doesn't change.
Right.
So if you start pumping in too many alkaline vitamins and too much yeast
Mhm.
and too much sugar and too much vitamins, and that alkaline gut starts growing yeast, which ferments at 8.5 pH instead of 6.5,
Yeah.
then the whole body reverses polarity, and the gut becomes a positive charge, and the blood becomes a negative charge. And since poisons are negative, they tend to be gravitating to the negative pole. If you have too much alkaline gut and too much acid blood, you start sucking the poisonous acids into the body. And
Wow.
without minerals to neutralize those acids, you become a fat storage warehouse to try
Right.
and buffer all these negatives. Otherwise, eventually, those negative charges flowing into the body will create holes. cancerous holes, arthritis, ulcers, DNA damage. These are the things
Mm-hmm.
that cause premature aging.
Right. And that's a really important thing as well, is checking out the ionic calcium too, because calcium is one of the biggest things to buffer down the acidity. And this is the first and only calcium supplement that is an ion and is actually absorbable and utilized by the body, and is actually going to do what calcium is meant to do, whereas most other supplements are causing more of a problem than it's fixing. So that's another thing to take a look at on our site. We did do the calcium connection webinar series. There's a 4-part series that you could go back and watch on our YouTube channel. And then you can also check out the Q&A that Dr. Wolf and Jaylee did, I believe that was yesterday. So they did a Q&A on the calcium supplement, so you guys can check that out if you're interested in learning more. It's absolutely wonderful. You can restore your skeletal system back to being a 35-year-old with taking this product. So it's really, really incredible. It's a major breakthrough.
Let's
And
talk about calcium a little further.
yeah, let's go
Since
into that.
calcium is the number one vitamin for inflammation,
Right.
regulated by the thyroid. So when there's a lot of calcium around, your thyroid says, hey, go store into the coral reef called my skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use you from a rainy day and forward. I'll keep that calcium balance in there.
Right.
But there's always a pair to each organ, and there's a pair called the parathyroid organ,
Mm-hmm.
buried like 4 little peas inside the thyroid. The parathyroid sucks calcium out of the bones to go to inflammation anywhere.
Right.
So if you're constantly inflamed, you're turning off your thyroid to absorb calcium in, and you're turning on your parathyroids to suck the calcium back out to run to the inflammatory cascade, because there's a whole series of magnification steps in the immune system that all regulated by calcium. So the more calcium freely floating around in your bloodstream, the more inflamed you could get if it's not going into the skeleton and into the proper functions.
Right.
So getting the gut uninflamed will take that calcium loss out of the parathyroid and put it back into the thyroid and put it back into the bones.
Yeah.
It
And
reverses that loss.
yeah, and lots of times you can even see people with calcified thyroids or pineal glands or pituitary glands even, and it's lots of times from fluoride or from different things that are calcifying it, but then those receptor sites are getting blocked, and then you're having a low functioning thyroid or an inactive pineal, like your third eye isn't going to be as open, and just all these different things can take place. So getting that calcium back into the bones is so important.
You can't deliver calcium back into the bones without hormones present, since calcium is dependent on estrogen and progesterone to
Mm-hmm.
deposit, and testosterone to deposit back into the bones.
Right.
So it's very important that women realize that after the age of 30 and 40, when they're starting to decline in their hormones,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be harder and harder to put that calcium back into the bones.
Yeah.
You want to remain as an uninflamed young person and not allow yourself to get prematurely aged with the calcium protomorphogens building up in the tissues, causing premature wrinkles and aging, and tightening up the body with fibromyalgia and continuous body inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you have to work on the hormone balance, again with the zinc and copper plates that plug in the hormones. They direct the calcium where it's supposed to go.
Right. Amazing. The body is so wonderful. All
Isn't
the
it
things
wise?
it does for us. It's just
It is
fantastic.
amazing
And
to me still. Every day I learn something new,
it's
honestly.
beautiful. And even people don't get mad at your weight that you've may have put on over the years. Your
Yeah.
body built it to protect your organs, to keep you alive, to keep you still going. And so don't get mad at that. Don't beat yourself up over that, because you're beautiful as you are. If you need help, there's things that you can do to help lose that weight. But just know that your body is doing these to protect you and keep you
It's
going.
not your fault. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's not
And
your
it,
fault.
it might be your fault because of some of your choices, but you
Yeah.
think that it's my choice to drink alcohol, my choice to drink sugar, my choice to drink tequila. No, it's the parasites, because parasites have an enzyme called sucrase to
Okay.
digest sugar.
Right.
Humans do not have this enzyme. We have a
Hmm.
teeny tiny amount of sucrase to break sugar into fructose and glucose.
Right.
Fructose makes you fat because it can only go to your liver.
Interesting.
Glucose goes to every other part of your body except your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart only burns fat, not glucose.
Okay.
So if you eat sugar cubes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if
Mm-hmm.
you smoke a cigarette, which has one sugar cube buried in every cigarette to make you addicted to the caramel, And the cancer causing agent of a cigarette is that 4% sugar, not the
Mm,
0.04% tar and nicotine. The sugar
interesting.
cube is what's making you addicted to the to the cigarette.
Wow, I actually did not know that.
And you talking about a soda pop? It's got 18 sugar
Oh
cubes in
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So who's getting that? Well, yeast has the enzyme sucrase. So yeast takes that sugar that you're eating, the table sugar,
Mhm.
and it sucks it in half, and it uses the fructose to poison your liver with fat, and it uses the glucose to ferment alcohol called fermentation. So as more you eat sugar, the more you feed the yeast, the more the
Mm,
yeast eats that sugar, and it uses up, as I said, makes acetone nail polish remover to hurt your insulin control.
yeah.
Then you grow yeast. Now, what does yeast love to eat? It loves magnesium. It
Mhm.
makes the bud of yeast grows these long tubules looking for food called hyphae, and
Mhm.
they stretch out when they're hungry and they start looking for other organs to penetrate. So they'll puncture through the vagina into the ovaries and bladder and behind the rectum. Interstitial cystitis, colitis, prostatitis, vaginitis are all basically the yeast looking for food by puncturing and looking for more hormones and sugar.
Right.
So
Wow.
what happens now is that the fructose is going to the liver. So now the liver's getting fattier and fattier and fattier.
Mhm.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
And more fat. And
We'll
so
make it
what
a
does
word.
the liver does what to clean your body? It has glutathione, a liver containing sulfur molecule
Yeah.
made of four seleniums and a sulfur to clean out poisons. But what if you got all the six fermented beers a day being fermented by your yeast in your belly? And now your liver's trying to deal with all the B vitamin depletion of yeast, trying to get rid of the alcohol fermentation
Mhm.
and the fructose. So now there's no more B vitamins left in your liver because they were so busy with all this alcohol.
Yeah.
And now you drop your thiamine, the vitamin B1 regulating carbohydrate metabolism. Vitamin B1, B5, B6, and B12 run your carbohydrate metabolism, but they also run a yeast colony. So if you keep eating all these B vitamins and wondering why you're not losing weight, you're probably feeding the B vitamins to the yeast that's just
Right.
fermenting 6 beers a day and having all this gas built up in you, and you're getting more and more bloated like a Pillsbury Doughboy.
Right.
Nothing against Pillsbury Dough Company.
No, I used to love their cookies. Not anymore, but that's part of why I had to start on this journey and getting back to health was those Pillsbury cookies. But that's okay.
Yeah, you know what? I spent my entire medical school eating out of the donut machines in the hallways of hospitals. So I
Right.
was eating, totally ridiculous cafeteria food for decades, and it was very difficult to get a gluten-free diet that didn't have a lot of, extra additives or stuff added to it like
Yeah.
gravies or
It was
things like that.
it was really hard back in the day too. Like I'm so grateful now that like it's unfortunate that everybody's kind of having these issues, of course, but now it's so easy to find the right choices to eat. You can find things pretty much everywhere now that's going to give you a gluten-free option, dairy-free options, vegan options, lots of good sugar-free options now that are out there. So they have made it a lot more convenient for everybody, but still, even with gluten-free stuff, watch out because they do jam it with a lot more sugar.
Yeah.
So sticking with like quinoas and ancient grains like amaranth, teff, millet, chia, things like that, those are going to be really nourishing for your body, high in fiber, and you're not going to be getting that sugar overload like they're putting in the gluten free breads and pastas and things like that, where they're using corn and rice and whatever
Mhm.
else. So just make sure you're
But
reading your
then
packages when you're buying foods. And what were you saying?
Sorry, I was just picking up on you saying the genetically modified soya and corn would be even
Mm-hmm.
another toxic load. Even
Totally.
if you thought you could digest it, it's a foreign protein to your system, and so it's going to create an allergic reaction, which we
Mm-hmm.
could even create more edema, more histamine. The histamine releases high hydrochloric acid. The hydrochloric acid makes your stomach burn. What does
Yeah.
the doctor say? Let's take an antacid.
Yeah.
But if you take an antihistamine, which blocks the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, now you can't mix half hydrochloric acid at low pH with bicarbonate from the pancreas at high pH to mix to neutral pH to absorb protein, like I said, at pH 7.0.
Right.
So if you take antihistamines, you're killing your digestion, guys. You Most people don't understand that a steak can't be broken down into tiny amino acids without some hydrochloric acid.
Oh, you need it. So important to if you're gonna eat meat, which I don't recommend it. I follow a plant-based diet. That's what I recommend for everybody. But for anybody who is still gonna stick with eating meat, make sure you're getting hydrochloric acid in your diet. Like we have our HCl support, which is beautiful. Taking digestive enzymes really important. You can probably elaborate on that even more, Dr.
Well, I mean,
Drake.
we make our own digestive enzymes
Mm-hmm.
as soon as something comes into a smell in our nose.
Mm-hmm.
In Ayurvedic Indian medicine, we have what we call the wood, fire, earth, air, water, which have different tastes.
Mm-hmm.
The tip of your tongue is sweet to make the hydrochloric acid run in the stomach. So in Indian meals, they give you something sweet to start the meal, so
Mm-hmm.
your hydrochloric acid will start running before you put the big anything else down there.
Right.
And then we have sour and salty and astringent and different parts of the gut opening up at the 5 different tastes to allow different squirts of different enzymes.
Right.
So having a balanced meal where you have a 5 course meal of the sweet, then the sour, then the bitter, then the salty, then the astringent allows your body to actually digest at the 6 inches, 8 inches of different bowel parts that are going and squirting in
Mm-hmm.
different sequences as a relay race to
Right.
get that food digested. So one thing is really kind of crazy. I know it sounds like almost impossible, but it's true. Is there's an enzyme that when the hydrochloric acid, I mean, when your stomach starts salivating, these little salivary glands are like mini pancreases. They start putting in amylase to digest your
Mm-hmm.
starches. They start squirting in some, proteases and start pre-digesting your food before it goes down the pipe.
Yeah.
But there's one particular hormone that when you secrete in the mouth
Mm-hmm.
these hormones, the liver starts going, "Oh, I hear a big train coming. I better squirt a big bunch of bile."
Oh, yeah.
The bile is the soap that discharges and foams up and dismantles all these fats and makes them emulsify in order for you to absorb them.
Interesting. I just
So
I love the way you talk about the body. I just have to say that one more time. It's so fascinating to me the way you explain things. It's so beautiful.
the body is like amazing.
Yeah.
Because when you really put the totality of it together, the total intelligence of the body is formidable.
Yeah.
And it
The one issue with this whole, like, that's beautiful, and if people are eating in that way, that's wonderful, but the one of the biggest problems is that people are following the standard American diet, which is not going to help you produce everything in the right order.
Well, what I was
And
trying to
the
get to is
body,
the point that one
yeah,
thing is that the gallbladder
yeah,
has a particular hormone called cholecystokinin.
okay,
Chole meaning cold gallbladder, cysto meaning the contraction
mm-hmm,
of the gallbladder cystic capsule, and kinin means to move.
right,
So, in order to move bile out of the sac into the gut, a hormone, cholecystokinin,
mm-hmm,
is squirted upon the mouth hitting the food hitting the mouth.
right,
But this hormone does not work if you're standing. It only
okay,
works when you're sitting down. Can you believe it? Now,
interesting,
that's a pretty amazing statement right there. That if
wow,
you're standing, you're in autonomic overdrive for
yeah,
sympathetic nervous system. When you sit down, you go into parasympathetic nervous system that absorbs the digestion. It slows down the metabolism enough to absorb all the food off the train that's in the station.
right,
So a lot of people are eating on the run or driving through a drive-through now. Maybe we do digest better in a drive-through, but not as good as when you're sitting at home at a nice table and
mm,
relaxing for 45 minutes after you
yeah,
eat.
definitely not,
You're driving down the highway, you're passing trucks on the left, you
yeah.
got sirens on the right. How could you actually be calm enough to let the autonomic nervous system relax during eating?
Interesting. That's actually, I'm glad you said that because I have been eating standing up once in a while. I just moved into a new place. So now that I'm all settled, we have our table all set up, but I was standing and eating my past few meals. So I'll have to make sure that doesn't continue.
Exactly. If you'll notice, other cultures around the world always gather on the floor.
Yeah.
And sitting everybody down in Japanese
Yeah.
restaurants, when you see people around the Middle East,
Yeah.
they're all gathering around, and not to mention the fact that that's socially more fun, more
Yeah, I
joyful,
love
more
it.
helpful, more integrative. I mean, the environment with which you eat has a great bearing on
Definitely.
how
And
well you
and
absorb the
everything
food.
that's brought to the table as well, like the conversation, making sure that nobody's having an off mood at the table or you don't bring like problems to the table. Don't talk about family issues while you're eating, making it a really happy event and talking about what you're grateful for, blessing your foods, blessing it with what you
Absolutely.
want out of your food, saying this is going to be healthy for my body, this is healing me, this is doing whatever else, right? So
For
that's
sure.
a really important thing because I know lots of people think dinner time's the time to talk about family issues, and that's just not the case.
Well, your autonomic nervous system would go into adrenal overdrive, so you wouldn't absorb the food, and the food would be oxidized and angry because just like in the quantum field of the amp coil,
Mm-hmm.
the intention with which you impart your intention into the food or to the environment or the conversations you're having has a
Yeah.
profound impact on the right or left spin of something being taken into you with joy or repelled with hostility.
Definitely. And I even know when I have a cheat meal, I always bless it with and saying this is of the highest vibration for my body and just making sure I bless it so that it's going to do good for me, even though I know it's not the best option for me to be eating.
Well,
But I
you're
always still make sure I'm making like vegan, gluten free choices. I never cheat on my diet to a crazy degree, but always. Um,
okay. Well, I suggest that everybody force a 10% cheat
yeah.
because I'll tell you why. There's another part of dieting called the psychology of deprivation.
Hmm.
When your brain thinks that you're deprived, it holds on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in hibernation mode. If I have starved calories, I must be going into the winter. I better store fat.
Yeah.
So the more you keep this deprivation attitude, of, I can't have that,
Yeah.
there's a subconscious desire for it even more.
Totally. I
So I
know.
want you to say, I can have that,
Yeah.
but I just don't want
Oh,
it.
and that's exactly how I do it. Like, well, I'm allergic to gluten and dairy and things like that, so I just don't have those things, of course. But when I first started, I would deprive myself, and then I would binge because I was like, I wouldn't give it to myself for so long, right? And now I'm like, oh, I can have that piece of chocolate. That's fine. Like, it's all good, right? So you just have to be able to allow that to happen and not be
Exactly.
so strict with yourself.
Well, it does create a better, what I call kind of an athlete's mentality where if I work hard all week, I should have a reward at the end of the week.
Totally,
Right?
totally.
Because it allows the body to feel that it's rebelling a
Mm-hmm.
bit vicarious. Now, if you're going to go though and have no alcohol and no sweets all week, and then you decide on Saturday night, I'm going to have 6 beers and six, pieces of whatever
Yeah.
crazy chocolate cake and whatever,
Pizza,
then
whatever else you can
you
throw
can be
in. Yeah.
paying for it long after Monday morning because for every one discrepancy, many of my talks in the past, you may have heard me talk about bioterrain, where
Yeah.
any infection triggers the celiac antibodies against the nervous system.
Right.
And so it's been a study of mine in my medical laboratories that for every one cheat you make on an allergic food, the antibodies can be seen in the bloodstream for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So if
Interesting.
you're going to cheat, pick a, pick a safe cheat.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting that you cheat on the worst thing ever.
No.
You could have a particular cheat. Say you wanted ice cream. Well, what could you do to cheat on ice cream? Well, the lactose feeds worms, but gelato doesn't. It doesn't have
Yeah.
lactose in it.
Or there's
So
coconut ice cream
you could have
now.
sherbet or gelato, but it's not going to give you quite the same ingredient as a big creamy, chocolate
Yeah.
milkshake.
Exactly. And they have even the coconut ice creams available. They have almond milk ones now, or you can find so many different alternatives so that you're not taking in the
Exactly.
dairy that's going to be causing so many issues for everybody.
Now, one more thing is a lot of people are basically told, don't eat salt. Don't eat salt. Don't eat salt because you're an old man with ICU infected heart and you're in
Hmm.
congestive heart failure and you got diabetes and heart disease. But do you know that the number one cause of dementia is low sodium?
Yeah.
We've given so many diuretics to our seniors who had high blood pressure, not realizing that high blood pressure comes from low salt or high salt.
Right. And it's the
So,
salt that it's what type of salt is the most important thing.
so on the piano keys, there's 88 piano keys,
Yep.
okay? Your body has 61 minerals on those piano keys. So if you have trace minerals of multiple different salts called the Himalayan salts with
Hmm.
88 trace minerals of a little bit of this and a little bit of that,
Yeah.
then over time, it's unlikely for you to get depleted in the one alphabet letter that makes the piano sound bad.
Hmm.
And if you keep only eating one sodium, 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 and all the other trace minerals get knocked out of you, you're going to puff up like a bloated cushion
Right.
because there's too much salt interstitially in the tissues that are inflamed. So only people who are inflamed though absorb extra salt. Otherwise, your kidneys urinate it out.
Yeah.
So I think that there's some crazy suggestion that, all of us should be off salt, and that's just not true.
No.
In addition, the salt that has iodine added helps your iodine run your thyroid, which runs your weight control and your temperature control and your enzyme control.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can
Yeah.
learn to eat more moderate by having colorful diet of many different spices, which have many different minerals,
Mm-hmm.
many different fats and many different oils,
Yeah.
many different proteins of many different nuts or seeds or protein leafy vegetables and or whatever else you might be using in the animal world of fats, presumingly that it's organic and not full of pesticides or poisons.
Yeah. And that's a big thing too. If anybody's looking like needing to lose weight, spices are so important. Curcumin and cayenne, those are my two favorites. We have a blend of it together that we have here at the clinic if you're wanting to check it out if you haven't before. But it is so wonderful, especially for getting rid of any excess weight. We've had people who didn't really change anything else with their diet or with their lifestyle, just started taking this and they dropped 20 pounds within a week or two. Um, so
And the
getting that
curcumin is full of
metabolism going
sulfur
with
for your liver,
spices.
so you're cleaning your liver.
Mm-hmm.
And the cayenne pepper is the highest form of vitamin C, which joins with zinc to make adrenaline.
Yeah.
So now you're turning on all of your antioxidant systems, your adrenal burning systems, your fat burning systems, and your detox systems with something so simple.
Yeah, and it
Had you
puts
heard
your
this? Had you heard the crazy old byline on the internet about how certain individuals tried to copyright turmeric, turmeric in India, and it has now been made like a national spice there, so that no one could actually,
oh
genetically modify it,
oh really? I didn't know
or
about this.
it's you can imagine that in the whole Middle East
Yeah,
and in India and in Asia, what are they doing to stay skinnier than the Americans? What are they doing?
totally.
They're eating spices,
Yeah,
hot spices. They're eating high curry, ginger, garlic, onions, mustard, apricots.
yeah.
They're all full of sulfur to
Like
clean your liver.
chickpeas, like good, like plant proteins. So amazing. Like Indian food's my favorite. I love Indian food so much. I'm like highest spice level possible, please. It's so
So,
good.
let's talk a little bit about that for a minute, because
Yeah,
not everybody can handle spice.
totally.
First of all, there's an ectoderm, skinny, tall, moving fast person who likes to have all their vegetables cooked and they can eat all the butter and cream in the world and they never get fat.
Right.
That's the Vata constitution. Then there's the athlete, the big Pitta constitution, who likes muscle. They like meat. They like, they have a more, pardon me, they have a more anabolic body. They like to build up.
Right.
And then there's the third body type, not the ectoderm and the mesoderm, but now the endomorph, the person who has the body has a bigger body type, the bigger bones. They're the kapha personality. They tend to be so needing of spicy food because their body is generally so slow that
Right.
they tend to automatically genetically be more prone to gain weight because of their slower metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who are in kapha, slow metabolism, need a lot of spices to turn them on. The people who are vata, who are already skinny and running around, they don't handle spices well.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
it's a matter of getting the right understanding of who you are,
Yeah.
how constitution made, and this is usually defined by your three pulses in the wrist.
Right.
The pulses, the vata pulse, the pitta pulse, the kapha pulse. And they're supposed to be on a scale of 1 to 3. Which one dominates in you is more like your constitution.
Yeah.
So if you don't know your constitution, you can have somebody help you out and find out which are the foods for kapha, which are the foods for vata, which are the foods for pitta, which are available on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see that they're kind of different beans for each type, different proteins handled in each type.
Mm-hmm.
Even the eat right for your blood type diet I found extremely helpful for weight loss, because the people who live near the equator, they tend to be more of the pitta muscular, the beautiful black athlete with that glistening muscle mass, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they don't necessarily handle all the grains and stuff that happened in the plains when people moved up into the agrarian middle of the world. So the type O blood came first, more like the meat eaters. Then we moved into type A blood, coated with glucose.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually people moved into the foothills and they had galactose on their blood. Type B blood is galactose. That's goat milk and lamb and rice. They never seen a grain farm in their lives. They don't grow grains up in the mountains. So they don't handle the grain like type Mediterranean diet that's rich in pastas and carbs and tomatoes
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
chicken.
Right.
And then the AB diet is 4% of the population. They love seafood. They're the only people primarily in Scandinavia, who had the enzymes to handle both the glucose and galactose from the sea fish and have a high integrous immune system that's been exposed to so many things that they're able to handle all of it.
Right.
So, depending on where you live,
Mm-hmm.
the Ayurvedic world says you should eat in the foods of your country and in the foods of the season and in the foods appropriate for your body type so that you generally understand your metabolism as one of these three types of running machines.
Very
And you
interesting.
start to understand the type of metabolism and you start eating the food that's right for you,
Mm-hmm.
you start dropping weight without dieting. You don't have to deprive, restrict, count calories, count fat molecules. And by the way, how much fat does a human need a day? 30 grams. How much protein does a person need? 30 grams. How much carbs does a person need? Well, maybe more than 30 grams because your brain burns it off as much as you use.
Yeah.
So I don't care how many carbs you have as long as you got a good metabolism to burn it.
Mm-hmm. And the right carbs. That's the important thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about the right carbs in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm a I love vegetables, so most vegetables are good to go. And then if you're going to be doing the grains, we stick with gluten-free ancient grains, like I mentioned before, sticking with the quinoa, chia, the amaranth, the teff, the millet. Um, Buckwheat is a gluten-free ancient grain, but honestly, I just stick with chia and quinoa. I don't really go off into any of the other ones. And I love just I eat so many vegetables. That's how I stick with my diet. Squashes are great. I love cabbage, Brussels sprouts, asparagus. I love just like lots of greens. Um, yeah, basically just bulking up on vegetables is my favorite way of getting the balanced diet for me. And that's what I put all my clients on is very plant-based, rich diet. We won't go into animal products much with how we do our system here. We are plant-based, so I'm not going to talk about that. I know that you feel a bit differently on that topic, but we do sometimes do the raw eggs in our smoothies. Though we use our moringa, the plant protein. Of course, if you haven't checked it out, it's so amazing. Our plant protein powder. So we do protein shakes, and intermittent fasting is really important too if you're wanting to lose weight. Eating between 11 and 7. Having something every like 2 hours is ideal, and then not eating from 7 to 11 so that you're getting that fasting period and so that your body can detox and regenerate. Did we I like lost connection here, I think.
Looks like it. No,
Oh,
not seeing his
no?
screen.
Okay. Well, I don't know what happened there, but I think we may have just lost Dr. Drake's connection.
No,
Um,
get back.
oh, you're back? Okay, perfect. I was like, oh,
Your whole screen just froze for some reason. I'm
oh,
not sure
okay.
why.
No worries. You're back on now. All right. I don't know if,
Doctor,
oh,
I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt.
oh,
I'm trying to learn manners. But can I ask this question
oh.
about stevia? Is it okay to use stevia with my Tim Hortons coffee?
You want to, sorry, you want to use stevia with your Tim Hortons coffee?
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a 0-calorie sweetener, but because it has a sweetness, does it still activate the same insulin response?
Dr. Drake, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. You can answer that question. I personally don't know
Well,
how that would
I
respond.
don't want to stick my tongue in my cheek and laugh at you, and I certainly don't want to offend Tim Hortons company. But as you know, who cares what you're putting in your coffee? If you're taking coffee, you're drinking two ounces of straight tequila. The ingredient in coffee is called phenol alcohol. That's why you're addicted to it. So the two alcohols that you're drinking in every coffee, which by the way are a diuretic to make you urinate 2 cups of urine, are drying out the body and making you hyper concentrate alcohols in the blood. So people are addicted to their coffee because they're addicted to tequila. And worms, in particular, tapeworm of the pancreas, love coffee. And people who are using coffee enemas don't realize they're injecting tequila up their, their keister to try and bring poisons out of their body because it's such a flushing agent. Now, there's many benefits such as B vitamins and other things, but as you know, there's more than one type of caffeine, or maybe you don't know that. For instance, Moringa oleifera has caffeoquinic acid, a
Okay.
non-addictive, non-tequila like anti-aging plant phenol in it. That
Hmm.
would be a far better idea for you to be drinking rather than necessarily a drive-through coffee which extra sugars added.
So,
So I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but coffee is something that is here's the problem with coffee, okay? For every 1 cup of coffee, it's so acidic, so bitter that your pancreas has to dump all 7 hours of bicarbonate soda. Bicarbonate is the neutralizing acid. So as your pancreas hits that coffee, you dump the whole 7 hours of what you would normally use your bicarb for all your food, your breakfast, and your lunch and your afternoon snack. There's no more bicarb left in your pancreas. Once it squirts once at 7 a.m., it doesn't squirt again
hmm.
for various parts of the day. So if you're opening your brain up with a coffee and you're dumping all the bicarb, which is calcium bicarbonate, so you're going to suck calcium out of your bones in order to make more bicarb for your pancreas, and then you don't have any zinc left because you diuretically wasted it all with your coffee. So now there's no zinc to break my bicarb in half. So now I've got a big puffy belly, acidic belly, calcium disturbance, tequila on board, diuretic from my coffee, and some people are saying, well, how come the whole world's addicted to it? It must be good for something. Yeah, you know what it is? It's like got a great antioxidant potential from magnesium in it. If you go and look in the tropics, you see magnesium is the green color that makes the beautiful green leaves of everything.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a coffee field, it's as green as green as green can be.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, there's great things to be said for some magnesium in your life, but there's other ways to get it
Yeah, you can just take it,
through
make
leafy
infusion.
greens.
Yeah, leafy greens.
I'd rather eat chocolate than coffee.
Totally. I actually, okay, I didn't know that was an alcohol, or acted that way in the body. I'm gonna quit drinking coffee. Thank you for your question, handsome man. Is that who is on the phone still? Um,
Does it really mean that you need to quit, or do you need to use in moderation? Do you need to use at the right time?
see,
Do you
for,
need to use when you have abilities to handle it without using it as an addictive substance 7 coffees a day?
So for me personally, I usually have about one cup a day. Nothing crazy. It's with humic acid in it, so I know it's detoxing things out of my body. But at the same time, I don't need it. So why do
And
it?
what time are you eating it is the question, right?
I have my coffee in the morning at like 9 a.m.
Right. So your bicarb is supposed to squirt at 9 a.m. So you're actually using your coffee at the exact time of day where your pancreas needs the exact opposite.
Oh, this is why I
So
love
I'm
talking to you so much.
I'm wondering if it might, and I'm not saying this is written in stone. I'm just saying as a biochemist,
Yeah,
if you had a coffee after dinner,
yeah.
you've already used up all your bicarb for all the day because the bicarb squirted at 7 a.m. So
Okay,
when you have that little coffee after dinner, it actually acts as a homeopathic to induce sleep. By
okay.
having a small stimulant, it actually creates a sleeping environment. So
I'll switch
I
to.
don't mind a small after coffee. So maybe you're going to have a little
I'm gonna have a
post
little
dinner.
espresso after my dinners now instead.
Exactly.
There we
So
go.
well, the point is that if you did everything right all the time, you'd be dull and boring. So you have to
Yeah.
have a little bit of fun, right?
Oh, you know.
But if you continue to allow those fun things to escalate into 2 coffees, 4 coffees, coffee on the run, coffee everywhere I go, coffee is a stimulant to the adrenals, which is knocking up your adrenal zinc into overdrive. But what happens? Have you ever seen somebody sitting at a red light and they put their gas? They're revving the car, but they're not driving anywhere. They're just
Mm-hmm.
revving the accelerator. That's
Yeah.
what coffee does. It revs your accelerator, the adrenal, but it actually doesn't make you go any faster. Whereas if you instead had minerals to rev your adrenals,
Mm-hmm.
then you would have the power to move off the starting line and zip down the highway of life without having a depleting, mineral wasting alcohol, phenol that parasites love. And basically, phenol is tequila. Well,
Right.
who likes tequila is the tapeworm.
Yeah.
The tapeworm can live in a bottle of tequila, right?
They do.
That's what
They put it
ferments
in
the
there.
tequila into higher octane.
Right.
They put one worm in there to make the worm use its alcohol dehydrogenase to ferment the worm. But humans only have a tiny bit of alcohol dehydrogenase run by vitamin B1 or thiamine. So what if you have a yeast infection that used up all your thiamine and you're
Mm-hmm.
so tired, then you think a coffee is going to raise me up, but the coffee is actually diluting my gut um, pH. It's
Yeah.
diluting my minerals. It's making my worms grow. My worms are sucking the calcium out of me. Now I can't regulate my inflammation.
Right.
Now the coffee's so bitter on me, my guts are the wrong pH. So you can see how it can get into a bit of a mess pretty quickly if you don't look at the timing of your eating, what you're eating, how much liquid is before or after the meal. For instance, some people are really, really making one big mistake. It's so easy. If you drink anything with your meal, you're diluting the hydrochloric
Yeah.
acid in your stomach that was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to dilute and chop up all these steaks into tiny little proteins or these plant proteins into small amino acids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the rule of a weight loss is to drink between your meals
Yeah.
with no more than 4 ounces at a meal.
Mm-hmm. And
Secondly,
chew
the
your
rules of the
food.
stomach say don't eat fermenting foods by mixing proteins at the same time as fruits.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
never should have meats and fruits together because they ferment each other.
Yeah. No, there's a very important following proper food combining is really important. You can even take a look if you go to docofdetoxlibrary.com. We have our perfect day manual in there for you to look at, and we actually have the chart on proper food combining, so you can take a look at that because it makes such a difference. I've had clients, even people working here, and they were having issues like going to the washroom, like they were just not going for like 3 days, and I'm like, well, what are you eating? And their smoothie just had everything in it, like it was like kitchen sink smoothie. And I told them, I was like, okay, just like cut out a couple of these things and try that out. And the next day they were like, oh my god, my like body's actually functioning properly. Like they weren't even getting hungry really, but they were overeating at the same time, and then they weren't going to the washroom. It was just a mess. So just these little changes with food combining make the world of a difference.
I'd like to talk on that another bit longer because if you are constipated, you are perfect. If all this manure, if you will, is left in the pipes, there are other critters called pinworms, roundworms, hookworms, yeast that love to eat that manure to get the macromolecules for their colony as well.
Right.
And one of the most constipating infections that's misunderstood, misdiagnosed, completely in my mind off the charts missed in North America
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that pinworms cause constipation because pinworms love morphine.
Mm.
And so they love glutomorphine from your gluten, and they
Mm-hmm.
love casomorphine from your cheese, and they love the alcohol from your beer. So if you
Mm-hmm.
love your beer and your pizza, you can expect to get constipated by the morphine you're eating.
Yeah.
And by allowing that morphinized diet to constipate you on a chronic way,
Right.
then you're likely to grow more bugs that create more desire for cheese and booze.
Right.
And therefore, you're going to get a food addiction that you think is your addiction,
But it's
but you're
not.
missing the boat that it is the addiction of the parasite.
Mm-hmm.
And so you keep saying, I'm obese, I overeat, I must be bad. Well, that's not true. You're a perfectly healthy person who has an invading colony inside you
Yeah.
that has other desires for food and to copulate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a sex addiction, most commonly you have a parasite because the parasites like to copulate and they will drive you to this behavior. If you have a drug addiction, it is a parasite looking for morphine,
Mm.
opium, Demerol, cocaine. Some think that to build up the dopamine in your brain here is stolen by the dopamine needs of the worm down below.
Wow.
So I deworm every ADHD and autistic kid I have,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm having outrageously great results because these kids are actually doped up as morphine addicts with
Right.
the entire body craving. Some of these picky eaters will
Mm-hmm.
only eat chicken, McNuggets, and mozzarella cheese sticks, which is gluten and morphine,
Right.
right? And you
Wow.
can tell that these kids are autistic because they're
Yeah.
standing on their tippy toes because their rectum is so full of poisonous feces that they have to stand on their tippy toes because their rectum is so full.
Oh, wow.
And they often
Interesting.
are bouncing around trying to get their
Yeah.
dopamine up. And so they'll eat anything that's around. I've seen kids eat bubble gum off the ground. They're going to pick up the pinworms from all the stuff they're putting in their mouth indiscriminately.
Wow. Interesting. I had no idea that with the autism and even just their body language, you have to pay
Yeah.
attention to so many different things, right?
When you see how
Wow.
zinc deficient these autistic kids are, they can't even make their own dopamine anymore.
Wow.
They're just so hyper and so exhausted, and their adrenals are so depleted.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to know that there's one more thing, and that is that certain vaccines also block
Yeah.
dopamine, such as the the MMR vaccine, the pertussis vaccine, some of these vaccines, they're not necessarily evil in and of themselves, but if you had it given to a person who's already got worms,
Mm-hmm.
so a normal dopamine would be here, and say they had worms and their dopamine and zinc levels were down here.
Yeah.
If you use a dopamine blocking measles shot that blocks them doubly down, they're going to knock the dopamine so far down they get a hypoglycemic, hypo um, low blood pressure stroke. And
Wow.
that's what's causing the multi-infarct strokes of autistic children is they drop their blood pressure so low after the vaccine they had multiple infarcts all around their body. If those infarctions happen to be in the brainstem, they lose their vocal cords and they become mute.
Wow.
If the infarction happened to be in their upper brainstem, it tended to cause more respiratory arrest. We could call it a SIDS death.
Yeah. And
So it's important for moms to realize you should deworm your kids before you vaccinate them.
yeah.
And our old-fashioned countries used to give the teaspoon of molasses, which is B vitamins, plus a bunch of sulfur,
Mm-hmm.
spring and fall before the kids went to school and when they got home from school. And they basically dewormed all the tropical kids. But those kids have moved to Canada, and we don't deworm them up here anymore. We
Right.
forget that they brought their colony with them. And it's not just the tropical countries. Canadians have different parasites from eating, you know, game meat or
Yeah.
eating whatever else we're eating up here that's, in our culture.
For sure. Wow,
So I
that's
don't
so
want to get too
interesting.
far off track, but there's
Yeah.
many causes of obesity that it's not your addiction, it's a bug's addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to get addicted to good minerals because that'll create good pH,
Right.
that'll absorb your vitamins and minerals and enzymes better, that will constantly clean you better so you won't have this backlog of gas, this backlog of adipose fat tissue and this
Mm-hmm.
backlog of lymphatic congestion.
Yeah. It's
And then you
amazing.
shrink down to you're shrinking down to 34 inches.
Yeah. And I feel like 34 inches is still on the larger size. Is that not? Maybe I'm.
Well, I don't think so. I mean,
No.
statistically, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
diabetes has a dramatic
Oh, with
rise above
diabetes.
34.
Okay.
And the reason is because most people's thighs are 18 inches.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Your waist is supposed to be twice your thigh. So your
Okay.
waist should be twice the size of your thighs, or your thighs should be one half of the size of your waist.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
how do you tell if you're obese or infected? If you have obesity due to Cushing syndrome, a stressed adrenal, holding on to bloating and holding on to fat because of your inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
then your gut will rise in weight, but your muscle wasting will make your thighs skinny.
Okay.
So if a person is infected with leaky gut, their gut's getting fatter and puffier,
Mm-hmm.
but their legs are getting skinnier and skinnier because they're losing their ability to protein metabolize.
Oh wow.
So if you guys measure your
And
waist, it should be twice the size of your thighs.
okay, interesting. And you see that a lot. You'll see people with the skinny legs, and then they'll have like the tire tube around their waist.
Think of those little kids with kwashiorkor malnutrition that you see,
Yeah.
the children with the big swollen bellies.
Yep.
They're starting to eat their own protein flesh because they're so hungry
Wow.
that they are starving, and their bodies start swelling around the protein loss as they eat their own self up.
Wow.
Now, for 3 teaspoons a day of moringa for 3 weeks, that is corrected. Can you
Wow.
believe that?
Isn't that
And
amazing?
why? Because moringa has horseradish in it. So I'd like to end our talk today about talking about horseradish
Yeah.
because the spleen
We do have
cleans.
one caller though before we do wrap
Oh,
up. So do
sure,
you want
okay.
to grab that first?
Oh, I just
Or do you want to
sure.
talk
I would.
about
I just
horseradish?
have one sentence here.
Okay, let's
That
do
is
it.
that the spleen cleans the body with horseradish.
Okay.
It's called peroxidase.
Yep.
So if you want to eat a good diet that keeps you skinny, you need the peroxidase rich foods that clean the spleen on a regular basis. And those are like moringa is the horseradish tree. You can eat horseradish or radishes.
Mm-hmm.
And also pears and parsnips are two foods that are extremely high in the peroxidase food that cleans the spleen. And that would help the swollen, puffy lymphatics.
Amazing. So horseradish, radish, pears, and parsnips.
Right. So that'll
Beautiful.
clean the left side of the body. The
Yep.
sulfur cleans the right side of the body, which is the curry, ginger, garlic, onions, mustard, apricots. That's sulfur for
Right.
glutathione. So if you clean your two cleaning organs,
Mm-hmm.
they clean you. You
Yep.
shouldn't puff up too badly.
It's beautiful. So let's get to that caller, and then we'll
Sure.
do our final words. And caller, you can ask your question.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Belinda, and I arrived late to the party.
You're never too
Ago.
late. How
And
are you doing?
I'm great. and thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
You guys have been talking a lot about parasites and worms inside the body, and I was like, oh my gosh, how do I get rid of that? And I just heard her mention one thing about a teaspoon of molasses. Are there some other things that we can do to deworm ourselves?
I'll let you
Sure.
go
Well,
first, Dr.
there's
Drake, and then
there's a
I'll pipe in.
you wouldn't grow the worms in the first place if you didn't eat too much of what they love to eat, which is lactose. So watch out on the milk products because worms love simple sugars. So lactose and glucose and alcohols and breads and sugars are basically asking for trouble. Now, in order to sour up the gut, oregano oil kills many, many parasites. And having a diet full of oregano is a really great idea at the best of times. The clove oil on the feet and frankincense oil on the head is a natural way to make your aura so high in vibration that these parasites don't like you. You're just such a high vibrating being, they don't tend to invade. Whereas parasites tend to invade a low energy,
Mm-hmm.
low body, that doesn't have its good defenses there.
Yeah.
Secondly, any type of parasite grabs onto your bowel with a jaw it clings to you, and the release of that jaw, the scolex releases in the presence of garlic. So the Mediterranean diet that gives you garlic day in and day out on a regular basis is actually a cleaning phenol that can help you prevent infections on the long-term basis. Just like the Indians are eating the hot curries with the sulfur-rich curcumin and turmeric and curry, or the Mexicans are using a lot of hot spicy chilies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or other things. Now there are parasite cleansing kits that you can use that usually use black walnut, artemisia, which is wormwood,
Mm-hmm.
and they often benefit from the use of frankincense orally, which is called boswellia.
Mm-hmm.
The herb boswellia is fantastic. Some people like to take colloidal silver on a regular basis, for 10 days a month to keep the high electrical flow of their body against viral illnesses. Some other people like to take a lot of grapefruit, which kills candida on site. Anybody who eats a lot of grapefruit turns their liver into 4 times a cleaning machine. And so grapefruit is a particularly well established antifungal thing that stops a lot of yeast from overgrowing in you. A lot of people don't realize that 20 hormones that regulate you are made out of olive oil, uncooked olive oil. If you cook your olive oil, you break down over 109 degrees, you break down the olive oil from being able to make progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, DHEA, and all your inflammatory hormones. So put your olive oil back into your body 2 tablespoons a day as an antifungal agent,
A
and put
really
the
good
garlic in the olive
quality
oil
too.
and squirt it all over your salad with garlic and onions and some of these other foods. And now you're keeping a regular antibiotic like warehouse of sulfur in the body.
Mm-hmm. Quality of
Moringa
olive oil is
moringa is
really
also a
important.
great antibiotic for all parasites, really,
Yeah.
and funguses, worms, etc. There are even more specific things that I use to deworm people. One of them in particular is camphora, which is an Ayurvedic Indian herb called Krumi Kuthar. You take it for 2 weeks and it kills all the amoebas in your body and all the parasites. And people are calling me up saying, God, what happened to me? What came out of me today? And they suddenly have lost their diabetes and their blood sugar control is great. And they're losing their addictions to sex, drugs, and rock and roll because they're having these parasites are disappeared. One lady I was with this weekend, um, I took care of her. She was a trauma nurse for 40 years. And she had a big belly on her, and she said, I'm eating so well. What am I doing wrong? And I said, well, let's check your AMP scan. And it said she had a tapeworm. When we de-tapewormed her, she stopped drinking 7 coffees a day and says she doesn't want a one. So who was the coffee drinker? It was the pancreatic tapeworm that was the coffee drinker needing the tequila quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful of how you feed your parasites. They love you. They love to absorb and or dominate your hormones. So they're looking for food on the side table while you're looking while you're looking straight ahead. The parasites are looking out their peripheral vision for food.
Mm-hmm.
So don't go near a buffet table if you're not hungry.
And I'll just add a couple other things. The daily cleansing tea, and like I meant, that's going to help to cleanse the gut, restore the lining, and bring back the peristalsis, help cleanse out all your other organs of the body. So that's kind of the foundational thing, is making sure our guts are cleansed. And then, of course, we do have the Humic and Fulvic products, like I mentioned earlier on the show. Those are going to help with getting rid of worms, parasites, bad bacteria. It's going to help with viruses, and it's going to help with getting rid of the heavy metals. But we do have the elixirs as well, which are mixed with life crystals, which deliver ATP directly into your cells. So that's basically cell food for your mitochondria. And we also do bioenergetic frequencies in them as well. So the pineal elixir has bioenergetic frequencies of frankincense, of spruce, and of pine. So really, really good for the pineal and pituitary glands. So as Dr. Drake was just mentioning, frankincense used on the head is so important because it raises your frequency so much. That's what the pineal elixir does, and it will actually regenerate your brain, regenerate your DNA, and get rid of any worms or parasites or anything else like that, which could be even living in the brain too. And there's also the divine vine, which is just a more gentle version of that, but it also has things for the thyroid. So it's going to help decalcify the thyroid and then infuse bioenergetic frequencies of iodine in there as well. And
And let's not forget the lowly old egg, because the egg is full of lecithin. Lecithin is the ingredient that makes acetylcholine that contracts all sphincters like bile sphincter, your brain, your memory banks, all the myelin sheath on your body, your heart wiring. The vagus nerve is dominantly made of acetylcholine, but the big tube that's 30 feet long in your bowel contracts with acetylcholine. So those who eat no eggs, they have to get some soya or sunflower lecithin into them to create the neurotransmitter that causes propulsion in the first place. So I just like to remind people that, whether or not you're a vegetarian or not, an egg is a mountain house of protein and iron and lecithin and great albumin in the weights. And a scrambled egg is 15% more protein than a boiled egg just because of the incomplete proteins joining.
yeah.
So people who cannot lose weight, some of them can get onto a higher protein diet. And the only downside to a high protein diet is that it feeds yeast. This is why I always say, look, 30% protein, 30% fat, 30% carbs, and 10% minerals is a perfect balanced diet. I don't necessarily love all these extreme diets that go to maximum, super low protein.
Yeah. You need
10%
just
protein. How are you going to run your
balance.
body's hormones and enzymes?
Balance is everything. That's the most
Exactly.
important thing. All these crazy fads of extremes are just not going to work. So balance is key.
Yeah.
And
And
oh,
for our audience who doesn't know where to begin, you might want to call Abby and book an amp coil session, because through a voice print, saying the words AEIOU for your wood, fire, earth, air, water signs into a voice analyzer, you can determine which organs are suffocating, which ones are tired, which ones are bloated, which ones are inflamed, which organs are suffering, and then you could pay attention to a more focal area of what your body is struggling with, and look and see the repertoire of nutrition, see how the organs are flushing, and see if there are metals, parasites, or pathogens that are changing your pH control. And if you can clean out that easily, then all of a sudden your weight's dropping. You stop feeling guilty. You stop having to eat your favorite foods because you didn't know which foods were bugging you. You just didn't know you had a parasite that was causing you to puff up and as we say, gassed up and ready to blow. Well, if you could just degas yourself, then all of a sudden you realize it wasn't your fault. When you took out that parasite and you suddenly dropped the 20 pounds that you never could lose, you kind of go, oh, aha, the light bulb's going on. It wasn't my fault.
totally.
This is
Totally.
where we have to start getting people out of this self-deprecating idea that they're ugly, they're fat, because they're somehow to blame for something. And let's not understand that, certainly some people do put on weight for psychological reasons.
Yeah.
They may have been a sexual assault victim and never want to be pretty again so that no one will ever touch them again.
Yeah, there's
They
definitely a lot of
there's
emotional attachments that can be involved with weight gain for
Yeah,
a lot
we'll
of
have to
different
chat about
reasons.
that another time.
Yeah, totally. Another talk for one of the next shows.
Another day.
Emotions and weight gain.
Exactly.
There we go.
Clearing your spirit.
Yes, exactly. And caller, if you're on the phone, did we answer your question? Did you have any other questions at all?
Yes, you did. Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much.
You're so welcome, and you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right. So any other final words before we wrap her up here?
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Abby.
Always.
I wanted to just put a few words in about the AMP coil here because
Yes.
if people do want to get an accelerated way to take weight off, the AMP coil has one song for each body part. So if you're swollen in your edema, you'll use your immune and lymphatic drainage song. If you're swollen in your liver from parasites, we can reduce the metals or parasites through our micro button and then restore the liver to its factory reset.
Okay.
If you're having difficulty with digestion because of constipation, because of the airways and the gases, we can use the mineral and Herxheimer repair buttons to get rid of the poisonous toxic backlog or the parasites and pathogens that are making acetone that are hurting your pancreas. You mentioned that we burn fat through the ATP of the mitochondria, but it's dependent on chromium and magnesium, both of which are stolen by yeast.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an overgrowth of yeast, you can use the AMP coil to lower the 18 months of colony down in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly now you're not fermenting that bad pH. You're correcting the normal flora and delivering back probiotics into the body electronically, but it's at least giving you a helicopter ride back to the 0 point on the bioterrain. And once you start back in the middle where you can deliver oxygen, you can burn fat. You cannot burn an ounce of fat without oxygen, and you cannot burn a single ounce of fat without water, okay? Because water is the ingredient upon which we actually emit the carbohydrates, and the fat is burnt into CO2 and water, and they have to be dispersed that way.
Right.
So anybody who wants to lose weight, you start drinking water with
Yes.
lemon in it, and you will
Structured
flush
water.
the intracellular areas of the cell and bring them back online.
Yes.
So if you are interested, seek out the Doc of Detox or myself here in Toronto. I'm at healthcounts.ca, or visit ampcoil.com and make sure you mention that Doc of Detox sent you there, and explore what you can do to own a body sculpting device
Mm-hmm.
that's got music and magnetism
It's
in the
beautiful.
perfect ratio of Mother Nature to give you back what it would be like a pitch pipe, or I like to say it's a pitch pipe to the choir or a car wash on the inside. It's helping tune you up back to the way your body was meant to be, so that you can feel the way you want to be and look the way you want to look.
Totally. And this machine is absolutely amazing. I've worked with it extensively and the results are absolutely incredible that people get with it. And I just want to spread the word as much as we can about this amazing machine that you've helped to create and the amazing work you've done with it. It's mind blowing. I just think you're such a genius. So
Oh, I've
it's,
had some help, believe me,
oh,
and I've had lots of different travels to
yes.
me, to learn about parasites within my own body that was not taught to me in medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Not taught The nutrition wasn't taught to me in medical school, and the detoxification was not taught to me in medical school, nor my 20 years afterwards. So after 25 years in medicine, doing the same old thing and it not working, I have found that natural medicine and natural processes that support the natural body are the best way to go. And I appreciate Doc of Detox, and especially you, Abby, for being able to eloquently and articulately help people in their choices to really sculpt their body to peak performance. So
Aw.
thank you so much for interviewing me and bringing some of this information to light.
Thank you so much. And that's so sweet. Thank you for being here with me. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I just want to say I'm very grateful for you and everything that you've taught me over the past few years. And it's always such an honor to work with you. And I can't wait to see where everything else goes in the future with our relationship and what we're going to do to help
Great.
change the planet. I'm so excited.
Ditto. Well,
And
everybody go and pig out for Thanksgiving,
yes,
but have extra turkey and extra yams and parsnips and pears
don't forget your
and all
HCl.
those great foods that we all know heal the body
Yes,
for the rest of the
definitely.
year. So God bless you all, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay.
Yes, sounds great. Thank you so much. And everybody, don't forget to tune in on Monday, November 26th for Clayton's Classroom with Dr. Darrell Wolf and Clayton Nolte. And that will be at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And they will be discussing the truth about alkaline water and your health. That's a big one. The alkaline water is a big topic, so don't miss this one. And Dr. Wolf will be back at it again with his Braveheart Q&A on Tuesday, November 27th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on the 30th, he is going to be doing Where the Mind Goes, the Body Follows. This is going to be a Doc Talk special, and again, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the next show with Dr. Deborah Drake and myself will be Love the Skin You're In on Wednesday, December 5th. And again, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I can't wait for that one because skin is everything to me. So it's going to be wonderful. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are in the United States of America, you all have a beautiful Thanksgiving. We already had ours in Canada in October. So you guys really enjoy your beautiful weekend. And I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.